Today, we celebrate the institution of Rollins. They've provided some wonderful entertainers and singers for us. For a while, then in Miami, providing a wonderful service to people who were caught in the legal system, our legal immigration system. And we're going to be hearing more about that a little bit later. And you'll have an opportunity to make a contribution to their organization as well. But as far as our church goes, the restrooms, they'll back through that back door and go downstairs and follow the signs to the restrooms. And we're also going to have a light reception following the program, and you're invited to do that. And it's also downstairs. Follow the signs to Criswell Hall. And just happy that you're here, and we're going to have a wonderful program. I'd like to introduce Richard Owens, who's a member of this church, but also a member of the wider community, especially the music community here in the Orlando area. Richard?
Thank you, David. I don't usually speak from the pulpit, but I left my papers here with my notes, so I had to come over here. I am glad to see you. I have no idea why this is the smallest crowd we've ever had. Maybe they thought I was going to talk longer, but I'm not, so I don't know what it was. I'm very pleased that we have this group this morning. There's a reason for everything we do. It's not necessarily a theological or a political reason. It sometimes is simply a matter of urgency. First of all, I welcome some Rollins students whom I know very well. We had a wonderful Gershwin review at Rollins about 2 weeks ago now, and I wanted all of it, but they didn't have the rights to repeat it. So we settled for the best ones of the bunch, and they'll be singing for you. And then we have some other things besides the Gershwin. The reason Gershwin and Berlin are on here today is this is a celebration of some of the great immigrants who have been in our country. If we didn't have the musicians who had immigrated to this country, like the Gershwins in Berlin, both of their families were from Russia. Neither one spoke English when he arrived in the United States, and neither one knew music when he arrived in the United States. And they both not only mastered it, but they became some of the finest composers in our history. If you're not sure who Gershwin is, well, then you kind of don't ever listen to anything. No, Delta Airlines, or United Airlines, made Rhapsody in Blue so famous a few years ago that you can't miss it. And, of course, his movies with Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, if you're old enough to have enjoyed those, then there's music in this. But the amazing thing is Irving Berlin, just a boy, came here, not only learned music, but he set up his own music business. He did all his own legal work. He never worked for a lawyer. That's nothing against you, Todd. He just didn't believe in him. He thought he could do it better. He built his own theater on Broadway, which is still open and running. The man was a marvel, and then he not only that, but he learned to speak English so colloquially that he could write a show like Annie Get Your Gun with the song Doing What Comes Naturally. And so both he and Gershwin are wonderful examples of immigrants to our country. Now, the reason immigration is important to me right now is what's going on in the world. And when I found out a little more about JFON last year, we were lucky to have Todd Willis with us then, and we'll have him again later today. And I just realized how far-reaching the problems of immigration and migration are. I'm not about to name them all, but how many know who the Yupiks are, or the Yupiks? They are an Eskimo tribe, and they don't have to read the scientific reports to know that the land where they live is now underwater. And there are 35,000 of them, and about half of them have lost their home, and they live in mud, literally, because of the rising ocean. They're in Alaska. They are actually an offshoot of other Eskimo tribes. The people of Somalia, whom we seem to be unable to help, are dying of starvation. They are experiencing a terrible drought, and they have one of the worst governments in the world. The people of Honduras, you would think that close to us, we could do something about it, but they have the highest murder rate in the world. The highest murder rate. And they are one of the biggest immigration problems, because when people want to go through Honduras to come to the United States, they either get murdered or kidnapped and sold or robbed, depending on what, and it's a big problem, and you can read about it if you want to. It's easy enough to read about because it's in the Wikipedia files all the time. And Florida, we now have the third largest human trafficking rate in America, and that's closely tied to immigration. And it's embarrassing. It just makes me angry as I can get. And yes, these songs are not necessarily about that. We're here to enjoy some beautiful music. But by golly, we have to know what's going on in the world. And here in our own congregation, we have another congregation that meets here that are all Haitian. And the situation in Haiti is pretty bad because of the earthquake. We know the terrible things they had happen a year ago, and there has been some fighting among the religious factions, and they also do not have a very stable government. So I don't even need to mention the problems of the refugees from Syria and Iraq that go to Turkey or to Italy and to Greece. Those are huge problems, but we don't have to go that far to know about it. All we have to do is go to the airport. And that's only, 17 miles from here. So there's a lot we can do to participate in the help with immigration problems and to guard it, to protect it, to believe in it. Now, on the back of your program, you have a picture of, I hope you know who that is. Ladies and gentlemen, believe me, I have seen young people who didn't quite know who that person was. And that's pretty embarrassing. And most of them have never read the poem, The New Colossus, which I printed for you. And so we're going to do something today. We're going to, Kathy, would you come help me sing the song for them? We're going to sing Irving Berlin's setting of the inscription on the Statue of Liberty. And I'm going to go over to Kathy here. We're in E, and I hope that we're going to go do it a couple of times, and maybe by then you've learned a very difficult tune. It goes up by steps, so you should. Give me your tired, your cold, your heart on the masses yearning to be free. The thoughts that threaten refuge on your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless tempest tossed to me. I hold my lamp beside the golden door. And we'll go back and we'll try to sing a little together, and I'll sing the right words this time. Give me your tired, your cold, your huddled masses yearning to be free. The wretched refuse on the shore. Send these, the homeless tempest tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Once again now, we all have it from memory practically. Ready? And give me your tired, your cold, your huddled masses yearning to be free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless tempest tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Thank you. I felt that you should be a part of the service today, and I appreciate that. And I hope you will remember this poem because it is part of our history, and it's a part of why we're here today. I will tell you that I picked some lovely songs by some outstanding students and friends of mine, and I am very honored that Kathy Slage has volunteered. She's on the faculty at Rollins and at Trinity Prep, and she has volunteered to be our pianist today. We've been very fortunate that we've had such good pianists. And so we're going to proceed with this. The only person I will introduce right now is the Dean of Religious Life at Rollins College, Dr. Katrina Jenkins, and she will be speaking to us a little later, as you see. And one omission is on the program that I mistakenly allowed to happen. I can do better than that from Urinetown is not on the program today. So other than that, it will run as in order. And I thank you very much for being here. And so, Jessica, I think you're on, aren't you?
There's a saying old says that love is blind. Still we're often told, seek and ye shall find. So I'm going to seek a certain lad I've had in mind. Looking everywhere, haven't found him yet. He's the big affair I cannot forget. Only man I ever think of with regret. I'd like to add his initial to my monogram. Tell me, where is the shepherd for this lost lamb? There's a somebody I'm longing to see. I hope that he turns out to be someone who'll watch over me. I'm a little lamb who's lost in the wood. I know I could always be good to one who'll watch over me. Although he may not be the man some girls think of as handsome, to my heart he'll carry the key. Won't you tell him, please, to put on some speed? Follow my lead. Oh, how I need someone to watch over me. Someone to watch over me.
Listen to your daddy warn you, before you start traveling. A woman may born ya, love ya, and mourn ya, but a woman is a sometime thing. Yes, a woman is a sometime thing. Your mama is the first to name you, and she'll tie you to her apron string. Then she'll shame you, and she'll blame you till your woman comes to claim you. 'Cause a woman is a sometime thing. Yes, a woman is a sometime thing. Don't you never let a woman grieve you, just 'cause she's got your wedding ring. She'll love you and deceive you, then she'll take your clothes and leave you. 'Cause a woman is a sometime thing. Yes, a woman is a sometime thing. Yes, a woman is a sometime thing. Yes, a woman is a sometime thing.
The way you wear your hat, the way you sip your tea, the memory of all that. No, no, they can't take that away from me. The way your smile just beams, the way you sing off key, the way you haunt my dreams. No, no, they can't take that away from me. We may never, never meet again on the bumpy road to love. Still I'll always, always keep the memory of the way you hold your knife, the way we danced till 3, the way you changed my life. No, no, they can't take that away from me. No, they can't take that away from me.
Good afternoon. And a blessed Palm Sunday to all. I just want to thank Dr. Owens for extending the invitation for me to come and speak to you very briefly about some of the things that we are doing at Rollins in terms of the religious life program that we have there. So, as is stated in my bio, I am the Dean of Religious Life, and I have been at Rollins for about what marks my 8th month. And this is actually, though, my 17th year in college chaplaincy. So, started a while ago, and I'm still enjoying doing what I love, which is being with students and being in higher education. So I'm just going to briefly talk about some of the things that I do. So I'll give you like my typical week. This is my typical week right now at Rollins. So today in chapel from 11 to 12, we had our regular worship service. from 11 to 12, and we did our Palm Sunday, so you all have your palms here. This evening, we have Catholic Mass. Tomorrow, we have Buddhist meditation. Tuesday, we have something called Rollins Table Manners, which we are bringing together folks to discuss what are you told that you can't talk about: money, religion, and politics, in which we're going to get together, about 60 or 70 of us, and be able to talk about those issues and learn how do we deal with each other. Wednesday, another meditation session, and we also, I need to back up and say we're also having Passover, a Seder, on Tuesday. Thursday, of course, it's Monday, Thursday, Friday, Good Friday, so we have service. And then for our Muslim students, there is Jumu'ah prayer, and then the cycle continues. So what I'm trying to say is we have quite a bit in terms of interfaith work going on at Rollins College, and that's part of what I was called to do in terms of, yes, Rollins was founded, of course, by Congregationalists who wanted to provide a great education in the South as well as they had in the North, came out of the North to do so. And so that's some of the typical things that we do. So how is that looking right now in terms of some of the work that I do every day? Well, the folks that I can tell you who are putting on our Table Manners program, we have our Hello Group, our Muslim Students Union, and our Catholic Campus Connections, as well as our general Christian students who are putting on this program. So there's a lot of interfaith cooperation. And why does that happen? Well, it says here, and I love this, thank you, Dr. Owens, for putting this in the bio, that I have the responsibility to advance the mission of the college to educate students for global citizenship. So what does that look like? Well, that looks like that you don't have to be the most religious person to touch my door, and you can be you can be the opposite of that. But it means that when our students leave Rollins, that they will know in terms of other faiths, and they will know their own faith if they choose to have one, and that they will be able to articulate and to be able to be with others who may be different or have different or various opinions, and be able to be in conversation and to have that knowledge to be citizens of the global world. Because as much as we try not to, some people try to say that the world, it's definitely smaller than we think, it's also a lot larger than we think too, and that there are various folks that we need to be at the conversation. I don't care which area of the political aisle you may be on, what has really come up over and over again is that people need to talk and conversations need to happen. So for me as dean, it's about programming and bringing those programs to Rollins to have faculty, staff, and students provide opportunities, whether it's through speakers or panels or things that we're doing, to have those opportunities to talk and to learn from one another and to advance that global system that we have, and to be able to see where people can come together and have those conversations in faith. Because one of the things that I have noticed that all the faiths, and even those who are in our secular movement, have in common is that people want to advance humanity, that people want to have some form or semblance of peace, that people want to be able to sit down and have honest conversations with one another. And so that's part of what I'm trying to do, is to build a bridge, that people feel comfortable crossing over, that people feel comfortable in terms of learning about one another, that people who want to be involved in faith feel that they can deepen their faith walk, or to be able to even question. There's a lot of questioning that goes on during the times of college, because mom and dad is not necessarily, they're not necessarily, or grandma and grandpa, to tell you to go to church, right? Or to engage in faith. And I was one of those students, an undergrad in Syracuse, that I did not, raised as a Baptist, I did not touch a church door for 2 years, my first 2 years. I was in a couple of Bible studies, and that was it, but I didn't go to church. And ironically, when I started this work, it was the same dean that I had at Syracuse that I saw at a conference, and he started to laugh and say, "Oh, so now, Katrina, you're going to understand my pain of how I tried to get you to come to chapel, and you would look at me very politely and say, 'Thanks, but no thanks.'" So I think, talking about that today and having that experience, right, I understand how students feel And I understand also how faculty and staff feel as well. So for me at Rollins, what we're trying to do is to build more of a global community, to try and build a community of understanding, but also having those true discussions, sometimes very hard discussions about faith, of trying to provide those avenues where students, faculty, and staff can be able to have these discussions, to learn from other people, to bring people in from the outside in terms of speakers and what have you, and to have those activities that folks can engage in, such as service, which is something that we all recognize that folks, whether you're faith or not, can do for the betterment of the world. So that's it in a nutshell, what we're trying to do at Rollins, and to be able to provide that platform. So I thank you for your time.
Gone is the romance that was so divine. 'Tis broken and cannot be mended. You must go your way, and I must go mine. But now that our love song has ended, what'll I do when you are far away and I am blue? What'll I do? What'll I do when I am wondering who is kissing you? What'll I do? What'll I do with just a photograph to tell my troubles to? When I'm alone with only dreams of you that won't come true, what'll I do? Do you remember a night filled with bliss? The moonlight was softly descending. Your lips and my lips were tied with a kiss with an unhappy ending. What'll I do when you are far away and I am blue? What'll I do? What'll I do when I am wondering who is kissing you? What'll I do? What'll I do with just a photograph to tell my troubles to? When I'm alone with only dreams of you that won't come true, what'll I do? What'll I I do when you are far away and I am blue? What'll I do? What'll I do when I am wondering who is kissing you? What'll I do? What'll I do with just a photograph to tell my troubles to? When I'm alone with only dreams of you that won't come true, what'll I do? Go out and tell our story. Let it echo far and wide. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. How justice was our battle and how justice was denied. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. And say to those who blame us for the way we chose to fight, that sometimes there are battles which are more than black or white. And I could not put down my sword when justice was my right. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. Go out and tell our story to your daughters and your sons. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. And tell them in our struggle we were not the only ones. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. Your sword can be a sermon or the power of the pen. Teach every child to raise his voice, and then, my brothers, then will justice be demanded by 10 million righteous men. Make them hear you. When they hear you, I'll be near you again.
Before Todd speaks to us, I have my good friend Don here, who's in charge of collecting money. And we have two big boxes that look like Christmas gifts, and that's kind of why we use them, because that's what we're giving for. I do not expect we will raise as much today as we raise when we have a larger crowd. We do hope that you'll help the work of Javon. It is a wonderful work. Todd will tell us more about it. And if we don't fill this box, we've got two of them. So, and we'll have one back here, we'll have one downstairs for you. We do hope you'll join us at the reception. And Todd, we welcome you to our church and to this ministry and to this congregation of friends.
Thank you for having me today. A big thank you to Dr. Owens and to the church and to Reverend Carefoot. I really, really appreciate it. I have the privilege to work with Justice for Our Neighbors. I'm an attorney in Washington, D.C. I happen to be down here on spring break with my family, so the timing was perfect, and I appreciate the invitation. I volunteer and do pro bono work with them, but also serve on their board of directors. So I've become fairly familiar with their work, and I absolutely love it. And I'm excited to share with you about their work. The mission of JFAWN is to be a ministry of hospitality that welcomes immigrants by providing affordable, high-quality immigration legal services for low-income immigrants. We also do some advocacy work for immigrant rights, and we also offer education to communities of faith and other public organizations. The Bible tells us in Leviticus 19, verses 33 to 34, when a foreigner resides among you in your land, do not mistreat them. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself, for you were foreigners in Egypt. I am the Lord your God. The concept of welcoming the stranger is a very clear biblical theme, and it's echoed throughout the Bible, included Jesus' words of loving our neighbors as ourselves, particularly when you consider who Jesus was telling us to love as ourselves in the story of the Good Samaritan. This concept of welcoming the stranger is also not limited to Christianity, but found in all faith traditions. But it's easier sometimes to apply this from a distance to encourage others to welcome those to their communities. The reality is, as Dr. Owen spoke to not long ago, just a few minutes ago, is that our immigrant brothers and sisters are right here in our midst, in Florida, in all of our communities in this country. And while not perfect, Justice for Our Neighbors attempts to help immigrants day in and day out. And a perfect example of our help for immigrants is exemplified by my friend, Luis Juarez. He is a resident of the state of Texas. He's a wonderful example of what happens when JFAWN is able to love an immigrant or a foreigner, as Leviticus instructs. His story starts in 2012 when he was in the midst of a tough decision. Luis was a student at the College of Education in the University of Texas in Austin. He was also an undocumented immigrant. His parents brought him across the border when he was a young child. At this point, he's in college. His parents are undocumented, paycheck to paycheck, and he doesn't have enough money to pay his tuition, to pay his rent. And so he's trying to make ends meet. And so he's riding his bike to the pawn shop to sell his high school graduation ring, which his grandmother had given him, when he gets a call on his cell phone. And the friend's voice said, "Luis, have you heard the news?" The news, of course, was President Obama's announcement of DACA, which is also referred to as Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. For more than 500,000 undocumented young people across the country, it was as if New Year's, Christmas, and the 4th of July had been rolled into one day. This potential avenue of documentation would provide them with a legal status within the United States and work authorization. Luis jumped at the opportunity. He took full advantage of DACA, and now he is a DACA recipient. He went on to graduate from the University of Texas. He is now a 5th grade teacher. Not only that, he was one of 7 DACA recipients to be honored at the White House for his outstanding efforts, and he was also recently Teacher of the Year. And now when you hear him talk about how he helps his students who are immigrants, it's a phenomenal story. But Luis's story does not stop there. Luis, like the other 700,000 DACA recipients, now worry, they're actually fearful, that their newly given status in America will be revoked by the new administration. JFAWN is counseling many of these DACA recipients in this country in these uncertain times. That's just one example of JFAWN's work and the guidance that's needed for many, many clients in the current political environment. So let me give you a few more examples of the type of work that JFAWN does and the type of cases that JFAWN handles. There are advice and counsel sessions, which these are extremely important. A lot of times somebody will not have a path to citizenship, a path to a green card, or any possible legal avenue, and they'll come in for advice. JFAWN will tell them that. We can only work within the laws. But what's important about these sessions is they will tell them, don't give anyone else money that says, or don't give anyone money who says they can help you, because they can't. The immigrant community is taken advantage of time and time again in these situations because they're desperate. But at least in this situation, they have a trusted source, a trusted friend they can come to learn that there is nothing that can be done at this point. There's also family reunification. A lot of times if a family member is here that's escaped violence from another country, they could be reunited with their children, with their spouses, with their parents. JFON does a lot of that work. There's also tons of immigrants escaping violence. That's normally in the form of asylum. JFON handles a lot of those cases as well. And then there's also work authorization, and there's paths to citizenship. Last year, I believe they helped close to 200 people obtain citizenship in the United States. So there's 16 sites across the country that does JFON's work. Some are in Texas, other in Michigan, Nebraska, New York, and one here in Florida, down in Miami. There are 37 paid attorneys in the network, and hundreds of pro bono attorneys, volunteers, and board members. Each of the sites provides a wide range of legal services, like I just described, and they handled over 9,000 cases last year as a network combined. So Dr. Owens referred to this a little bit in his opening remarks, and I think it's really important, and he hit on a key issue. You know, there's so many things currently going on, but if I take you back to 2014, you might recall there were government estimates that there were 68,000 unaccompanied children that crossed the Mexican-U.S. border. That's 68,000 in a summer. It was an incredible spike. And we saw news reports about it, but as Katrina was talking about, conversation is so important because it's so important to understand why 68,000 unaccompanied children came across that border, risking death, risking being sold into trafficking, and who knows what else. But what we learn is Honduras has the highest murder rate in the world. It's also by Guatemala, which is in the top 5 in the highest murder rates in the world, and El Salvador. All three of those countries, when you combine them, it's a crisis. And so that's where we saw a spike. Those children are still working their way through the system. And it's a phenomenal story. The executive director of Justice for Our Neighbors visited one of the detention facilities that was housing the children when they came across the border. And I think it was sort of an old factory, but it had sort of a jail feel to it. And they visited it in 2015, and he saw a little boy who was holding the hand of a guard, for lack of a better word, as he walked through the detention facility. And Rob asked, where is that boy's parents? Did he come over by himself? And they said, oh, no. He didn't come over by himself. He came over with his 4-year-old brother as well. I think it gives you an idea of the desperate states that some folks are in so that they will send their children across a border unaccompanied. We don't know how they got here. We don't know if their parents didn't make it across the border. We have no idea. But something was terrible enough in their country that they would take that risk with a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old. So why is the work of JFON so important? Not only is it important because it feels, in my opinion, like the right thing to do, but studies have shown, particularly in the unaccompanied minor situation, when people have legal paths to citizenship or a permanent residence in America, they are 5 times more likely to obtain them if they have legal representation. Nothing else changes. The facts don't change. Nothing changes except they have legal representation. So it's increasing success. It's increasing folks being able to stay here legally. So one of the things I did want to mention in closing is there is a real crisis here, and JFON continues to work to do everything in its power to help with the unaccompanied minor crisis. And one of the exciting things going on in Florida right now is back in 2014, when after the earthquake in Haiti, UMCOR, the United Methodist Committee on Relief, provided funding for Janet Horman in Miami to work full-time to provide immigration legal services and other assistance to Haitians that were in South Florida because they had a legal path to reside after the earthquake. Out of that was born South Florida Justice for Our Neighbors, and it continues today, and they still continue to help not only Haitians, but a number of immigrants, and it's a fantastic Justice for Our Neighbors site. It's doing wonderful, wonderful work. Well, the exciting part about that is they're trying to expand to Central Florida, And so within the next few months, we're hopeful that they will be able to start a clinic in Lakeland, Florida, at a United Methodist Church there. So we're very excited about that. It'll be a monthly clinic that'll take place on a Saturday morning. The thought was that that would be better for traffic and for folks to be able to participate there. Volunteers are welcome. Volunteers are needed and appreciated. So if it is something that you might be interested in doing or know someone who might be interested in helping out at, I would love to talk to you about it, and I would love to put you in contact with Janet Horman. So just in closing, as a board member, my job is to help JFON dream responsibly. And we have a lot of dreams. We're hoping to have 20 sites by 2020. Right now we have 16, and I think it's really possible. So anyways, I would just encourage you to think about it. Perhaps you could pray for the organization. Perhaps you could donate to the organization. Perhaps you want to give me your email address, and I'll put you on our monthly e-newsletter. Perhaps you want to go and help in Lakeland. Whatever it is, it would be greatly, greatly appreciated. So in closing, I'll share the words of John Wesley, which you've probably heard before, the founding father of Methodism, who famously said, "Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as you ever can." So if you would, please join me in asking that question of how we can do more good for JFON and our immigrant brothers and sisters. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
As we just heard, we have a lot of people in the world that need our aid, that need aid altogether. At Rollins, we have our interfaith community sparking the conversation. All over the world, there are people with their hand out, and it is our responsibility and our duty, as Christ told us, what we call the golden rule. Do to others as we would want them to do unto us. So as you listen to the words we are about to sing, think of that in your subconscious and bring it forward, and not be afraid to do so yourselves. Do you hear the people singing the song of angry men? It is the music of a people who will not be slaves again. When the beating of your heart echoes the beating of the drums, there is a life about to start when tomorrow comes. Will you join in our crusade? Who will be strong and stand with me? Beyond the barricade, is there a world you long to see? Then join in the fight that will give you the right to be free. Do you hear the people singing the song of angry men? It is the music of a people who will not be slaves again. When the beating of your heart echoes the beating of the drums, there is a life about to start when tomorrow comes. Will you give all you can give so that our banner will advance? Some will fall and some will live. Will you stand up and take your chance? The blood of the martyrs just might give us all a chance. Do you hear the people singing the song of angry men? It is the music of a people who will not be slaves again. When the beating of your heart echoes the beating of the drums, there is a life about to start when tomorrow comes. thinking they'll hear the distant drums. It is the future that they bring when tomorrow comes.